Hello, everyone. Welcome to Renera Decisions Lunch and Learn. I'm going to be your host for today, Gregory Goldston, and this Thursday, April 24th. So, going to go over the typical spiel. First of all, we got our Decisions YouTube channel. Check it out. We all put videos up there. We got a wide range of topics going from analyses of very particular steps and how they function, such as the end form session step, all the way to overviews of how entire categories of steps work, such as the Excel steps and also videos covering other parts of the platform, of course. So yeah, highly recommend giving it a look. Second thing is our product roadmap review is back. You can view that by going to decisions.com/events, and that is where you can get yourself set to see that. And then, of course, the big one, Decision Submersed. We got that coming up May 5th through 8th, which is going to be a Monday through Thursday, and it's going to be hosted online. It can be signed up for at decisions.com/events. We will be going over a new project there, which is a different project that we have not used before. It's going to be covering API calls, asynchronous behavior, possibly asynchronous behavior, definitely runtime selection, and a whole other bunch of concepts that were not covered in the original purchase request build. So that's everything that I've got to say. I'm going to move on to my environment now, okay? And once we're in there, I'll be glad to start taking questions. So give me just a moment to transition to that screen. And we want that right here. Here we go. All right, y'all should be able to see my decisions environment now. Let the questions flow. And I'm going to bring up my participants tab now that I've got everyone here. Cool. All right, we are in version 9.9 as of now. And in this version, there are a few different functionalities, or rather enhancements that got added, such as the ability to create accounts whenever an assignment is assigned to an account that doesn't exist. Do we have our PATs, our proactive assistance and troubleshooting tool, and a few tweaks to the form and page designers, mostly quality of life enhancements. So if we are still waiting on questions, I do not mind reviewing those once again. How do you name? Okay. There are a few questions here. Let's start with grants. How do you enable the PAT? Let me allow you to talk, but this is going to be a very simple answer here. The answer is that it would be enabled by default, but you can opt out of it by going to settings and then going to support settings. When you click on support settings, there is going to be a checkbox there that says opt out of PATs. And if it's checked, you're not enrolled in PATs. Enrolled is maybe not the best term, but you're not using the PAT system. And if it is unchecked, you are using the PAT system. And I should mention this is only available for versions 9.9 and higher currently. All right. So if you don't see it in a lower version, that's why you're not going to see it. You'll get your recommendations over here. Let me show you a little bit of setup on this, okay? So when you have PATs going and you go under here to configuration and settings, down here, you set the list of email recipients that you want. You don't have to set anyone, by the way. But if you want certain people to be notified whenever a recommendation is provided to your environment, you would put their emails here and it would send them emails using your own SMTP settings, your server-wide ones. So that would be how that works. Also, PATS only functions in development environments, in non-prod environments. So you should not be seeing recommendations in your production server, just in dev of things to work around. I hope that answers your question, Grant. Cool beans. All right. Shane, I'm so sorry. Let me allow you to talk. I was curious how you could get the assignment count in a folder as an integer.
Yeah,
So let me make sure that I understand the question here. Also, I'm so sorry. It is Sean, right?
yeah, Sean. So,
All right. So what you're asking about, are you talking about gathering the integer from the label over here into another flow, or are you talking about trying to still get it up with the way that we talked about before?
yeah, so I went ahead and I was following steps before, and I did manage to get it so that it would at least appear kind of like how we did before, but I did it with a constant, right? And what
Okay.
I'm trying to instead of having that number be a constant, have it be a value that is, I guess, more dynamic.
Mm.
And the I think the type that you need is an integer. And I was wondering if it's possible to or how I would actually get that
How
I
you
guess
would get that dynamically of the count?
yeah.
Okay. That's going to depend on a few different things. So let me ask, first of all, you're setting assignments to people, right? And then you're going to be providing them into some sort of default folder. Um, how are your assignments being sent? Is it just the send assignment step, or add task or show form step? Is it one of those?
Um yeah, I mean I guess you could say that it would be a I'm pretty sure it would just be a like set assignment step. But
Okay.
the thing is I guess the assignments within this folder are they're not just to I guess one specific person or individual. It's
Okay.
basically a just a series of different assignments effectively on one dashboard. So to kind of I guess give you a general overview of how this kind of works is I have effectively two different dashboards. One dashboard um, has group of assignments that are in one state, and then another dashboard that have a group of assignments in another state.
Okay.
So, um, and it's from a bunch of different, and it's for a bunch of different people. So, I'm trying to get, I guess, the count of however many assignments are in this state, and then trying to get that count as, I guess, an integer. Does that make sense?
Yes. So what it's sounding like is you're trying to fetch entities, you're trying to fetch an assignment type, and you need to categorize it. I would think fetch entities makes the most sense in your case, just from what I'm hearing you talk about. That sounds like it makes the most sense. But let me
Okay.
go to here. So we go to account, not accounts. I think I've been padlocked into just doing that all the time for the videos. I use the account
Yeah.
type all the time. Assignment. All right. Now there are a few different ways we can do this. One, you can specify parent folder ID, but I don't think that's what you need here because what we're trying to do is we want to specify fetch criteria. So let's say that we only want to get the assignments where the initiating user, right? Something along those lines matches the assignment. Because I'm guessing you want to do this per user, right?
Uh,
Or is it per group? How do you have these categorized?
they're I guess categorized by I guess you could say like state. So
Okay, so let's
so
go to state.
yeah.
Okay, if they are categorized by state, and you
So
have indeed this,
mhm,
if this field is indeed filled, then you would set the state here, right? And
uh,
you could do this, you could have this flow run um, per uh, folder that you're running in, right?
mhm,
So if I don't know what the two states are, I'm just going to say one is incomplete. Then what you would do is you're only fetching those assignments that are in there. You pass the results in, and then this looks for an integer, right? So you pick
mhm.
flow data, you get all of the entity results, and then you pass out the count, which is going to be an integer.
Okay. Can you show me the fetch entity sub one more time?
Yes, absolutely. So what fetch entities does is, well, it can fetch any entity type that is created in decisions and not hidden. And then you can set criteria on those entities that you're pulling back to only pull back certain ones that pass your criteria.
Okay.
Yep. And this
Um,
fetches from anywhere inside of this project. So if you have your assignment also is outside the project, of course, but like any assignments would get fetched through this. There shouldn't be a place where you can create this normally where you can't get assignments.
right. Okay. So, here, do you mind if I try then, just really quickly?
Absolutely. No rush. We only have one other question after you right now. So yeah, you're good. No rush.
Sure. So let's do state and uh I would have to specify, I guess, so it would be field name equals and then the input data alias. So that would be, I guess, the second um let's see. So if I
Alias is just whatever you want to call it inside of this properties here. It literally I could call this something like just the color blue, right? And now it's saying what is blue over here.
okay.
Yeah, that
Um
doesn't really matter.
okay, never mind. So I guess I'm trying to, so like in my case, right? Um the state that I'm looking for is called uh return to
Return to what?
pool, Pool.
Okay. So something like this.
Um yeah, let's see. So if I go pick, oh, and then I can make it a constant. Or
Correct.
um, okay. Um let's see something here quickly. Um because I think I actually understand kind of what we're trying to do here. Um
Yeah, you got the idea.
yeah, I think that part at
I
least
should mention there's another way that you can do it as well. Just so I don't see a reason why you wouldn't go the fetch entities route, but I at least want to. There are two things I want to show you with us. One, you see the security respect permissions down here?
hmm
Whatever entity is kicking this off, whether it's a system or a user, this respect permissions is only going to fetch assignments that the user actually has permissions to access. So if you find a problem with the count isn't quite accurate as you'd expect, it may be this checkbox, just so you're aware.
let me see again. Say it again.
Yeah, no worries. So um, when you're fetching entities, these entities exist inside the decisions platform, and users, either set by you or intentionally or unintentionally, have access to those particular assignments that you've given them access to, right? Or entities is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So if a user does not have permission, or rather, if the initiating user of this flow, if the flow context does not have permission to fetch those entities, it won't, unless you uncheck this box down here, the respect permissions. If you uncheck it, it doesn't care about what permissions are on the entities. It will fetch all of them with your fetch criteria.
Okay.
Yep. That
Okay.
may or may not affect you in your use case. I just want to let you know about that.
Right. Right. No, that I think makes that I think makes sense. Okay. Um, trying to find just right entity two. I think this would be the right one. Okay, let's try this then. Let's see if this will work. Um, It's what I think it is. I'm pretty sure this would be the way to do it. Mm, mm, so, bear with me just once. I'm trying to find out.
Mhm.
So this would be okay. So this actually would just be mm, assignment. We'll have this be head speed state. Okay, and then outputs. False. And let's try this. Debug start debugging. Um, okay. Uh,
Might be a state thing as well. I don't really know if you
oh,
have.
um, I think it's because, oh, okay. Uh, I think I see why. Um, I have to probably pull, the, um, here, let me pick the right, folder and just see if that would try picking a specific folder and we'll see if this works. Now, start. Hmm. Um, is it, like, select one? Hmm. Okay. Um,
Not quite working as you expected.
yeah, not quite. It's a little strange just because that changes. Yeah, it's no, it's not quite working as I expected. So I'm fetching the way that I kind of at least have my fetch ending step working is I have it based off assignment, um and then I have the actual state itself, um the fetch criteria being state equals, and then I have it be the state being the return to pool state that I wanted it to be. And then I even tried having the parent folder ID go to the exact folder I was looking at, and it doesn't still seem to be working. But I think it is just something with my fetch entity step. There probably is something to do about.
There are two things I would recommend. One, the respect permissions checkbox. Two, I would not set the parent folder because the parent folder is checking for where the entities are housed. If you don't have your assignment entities actually inside of your dashboard, but it's just a report that's reporting on them, then putting the parent folder ID as your dashboard is not going to be the proper area to look for them.
Okay. Well, let me try just doing ignore and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I would set that to ignore, uncheck the respect permissions, and
Let's
then
see.
give that a try.
What was the respect permissions again? Oh, I see it here.
Yeah, very bottom, very bottom. Yeah.
Right. Hmm. Still not one, but I think that's mainly just uh trying to get this fetch entity step to kind of work the way I want it to.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think the moment I kind of get this figured out, then I think that'll be uh
Yeah. You can also do a run report option. Let me show you this real quick because this it, it it gives you more information than you need than fetch entities, but something you can do with that is you can create a report on the assignments and then put in the entity name and the state so you can actually see what you're trying to fetch, right? So by doing it this way, you get a clear indicator of all of the fields and you get to actually understand what you're trying to grab. You can also just add filters here, right? So just filtered out by state here. And then once you've done that, you can pass these out as data rows and then pass the count of the data rows to the end step as well. So you can do it either by fetch entities or run report.
I think run report might actually be what I um now I'm thinking about it. Um, this actually might be kind of
It's
sort
a
of.
little bit more UI friendly as far as the data that you're actually passing out, but you
Mhm.
do get a lot more information than you typically need.
Right. Let's see. What is the
Um,
what is the
oh, sorry, what were you
length?
saying?
What is the length? I guess
Length? That's
uh
how long a string is. That could tell how many characters a string is.
uh even within like the folder, like in regards to like the folder itself.
The folder itself. Where
So
are you getting length from?
if so in the I guess end step, if you were to go to try to find the count for it, I'm guessing folder. Like I was wondering if I could possibly even use like just because it is just only going to be like what is in like this report, so or like the count that is within this report. So if I were to somehow take I don't know if there was I guess a number in so like if I go like report and then there's like report dot length, I think would be one of them, but that might not be the thing I'm looking for.
Don't think you're looking for report dot length. What you'd be doing, you want to pass it out as data rows.
Mhm.
That's important. And then when you're trying to pass it out here and you're trying to get the count from the report, what you'll do is you'll go down to report dynamic data rows, and you go all the way to the bottom, and you should see count.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Report and you said pass out as data. How would I do that again?
Yeah, yeah. So for the report step, make sure you're passing it out as data rows because if you're passing it out as an Excel sheet, becomes a possibly impossible to get the count of in this way.
Right.
So data
I see.
rows, yeah, pass those out, put out the count.
Okay. Let's try that. That might be actually fine. Let's see. Oh, I think that might be what I'm trying to do. Let's see.
And Vitaly and James, I will get to your questions in just a moment.
Okay, so it did I did look in the outputs and it did actually output the correct amount. It's just not displaying it for some reason. But I think that that's I think I can try working around. and seeing what
That might be a refresh behavior sort of thing, right? Because you have to have a way that you get this refresh properly. I think if you go, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Data Explorer, right? There is a triggered by folder change either being true or false. Like there are, you have to make sure that the count is getting updated with a little bit of refresh logic. But as far as getting your number there, this is going to do the trick, it seems.
right, right. Um, let's see. Refresh by triggered by folder change. Trying to let's see. Where would you actually, I guess, set that to trigger
Um, I
change?
will have to look. That's a question. I know that someone knows that, but I admittedly do not remember how to get it to refresh because I think we covered that in the last LNL.
Yeah, I think I can also try referring back to it. See.
I'll
Kind
look
of
back too. Please let us know if for some reason that does not cover how to do that, and we will gladly figure that out.
sure, sure. Sounds good. Perfect.
Alrighty.
Thank you so
Cool
much.
beans. Absolutely. All right, Vitali, I see your question. Is there a way to make a data repeater control expandable in height to fit added items? Expandable, I'm gonna say probably not. But let me make sure that I understand what you're trying to do here. So let's go to our data repeater. Let's create the data repeater control. We'll be passing that inside of a form. And also let me unmute you so you can talk. So you have in here a set width and length, right? For your data repeater, you go to properties, you get to see them right here. I have to pick an input type, of course, but designer width, designer height. What you're asking about is are you asking about users adding something in a list? Like how would it expand? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yes, so for example, if you on your main form where you have data repeater, let's say you start with one row and uh, you have like a cell, like that bottom cell, for example, allocated
Mm-hmm.
for the repeater. So
Yeah.
if you start with one row, it will look like if you have some content after this repeater, it will look like there is a lot of space be because you don't want that to be like one row height because then if you add second row, it will scroll and it's not gonna be nice.
So
So
what
you
you want is the data repeater to dynamically size with the form to accommodate each additional row so you don't have to scroll.
yeah, you scroll not on the repeater, but you scroll on the main form.
I see. Ooh. I know that that does not currently exist in the base product. There is something on the roadmap regarding there's a form control coming up, specifically a form layout that is going to, in a way, allow for some dynamic resizing. I don't know if it will fit this use case in particular, but when that does come out, and now that it's my job now to test a lot of the new stuff once it's getting close to being released. So when that stuff does start coming out, I will try to test that with a data repeater and see if we can achieve that functionality. I know that in the base product, without like any sort of like CSS, JavaScript control, something like that, um, you don't have a way to expand the data repeater viewing window, I'll call it right here, that would expand and get bigger, and the scroll bar would be on the actual form itself instead of the data repeater. I know that that is currently not in the base form controls.
Another question, when you select data repeater on this form,
Yes.
why doesn't it have CSS to apply?
Why doesn't it have C? You mean just like to fill it out?
Well, most of the controls, they have CSS that you can, let's say, get like a style for your specific control,
Right.
but not for the data repeater. I don't know why.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know either. I am not 100% sure why CSS is not set to this one. I would guess that it probably is just set on the form itself, and you'd find that particular tile instead of, on the actual control. But in all honesty, I am not 100% sure. Jeremy may have something to comment on that. By the way, you're unmuted, Jeremy. What you got?
I was just gonna ask. It was more just a curiosity. I was wondering if maybe like I know vertical stacks have some level of auto scrolling things. I didn't know if maybe I don't think it would fix the whole form itself, but within a vertical stack, I wasn't sure if it would do at least some of that. I have never tested it. I just kind of thought of it. And I have no idea if it would do it or not, but I was just kind of curious.
I'll give it a try. Um, I guess my concern with. Wait, hold on. I actually want to. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. Can I just scroll right over the whole thing? I can. Cool. All right. My concern with a vertical stack on that is that you could make the data repeater very big, which is on the data repeater, but it's worth a try, right? What do we got? What's an awful type name? We're just going to do a file reference here. That's what we're going to call it. And you know what? We're going to, not file reference. I'll call these the elements. We're going to edit our source, and we are just going to pick the element registration as our input type. So like everything. I think it's just called element registration. I don't think it's registration info or just, there it is. Cool. All right, this will be fun. And we're gonna pass in a text box. This will be the entity name. We're actually gonna pick from data name. Is it just called name? Oh, it's entity name. Hello? Entity name, there it is. All right, cool. We're just gonna do that, and we're gonna populate this with about 14,000 rows just so we can test this. Save this. Save that. Create a flow. Test data repeater. And then show form right there. Grab our form from before, pick that, fetch entity, type name, registration, results go here too. Cool, pass all those out. Yes, all those. We're not going to have a selected one by default. Ignore. Set that. All right, let's see how big this gets. Lovely. Oh, wow, it's loading. Hold on. We're just going to run it. We're not going to run it in the debugger. Give it a moment. I don't think we need a high performance indicators on why putting every single decisions element into one form in a data repeater is going to impact performance. But if y'all were curious as to why or if that would happen, here you go. Yeah, give it a moment. Maybe I should have just grabbed accounts or something. Yep, no, we'll wait. If this doesn't work, I will grab a smaller data set. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me unmute you. My bad. Where are you? Hello? Vitali left too? Did people just get disconnected? Hello? We're gonna close this. Hey, am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay, cool,
you're good.
cool.
And I wasn't disconnected or anything. I was
Yeah,
still able to hear you.
I think some people might just be leaving.
Okay.
Maybe they just had to go.
I gotcha. Well, I would like to get to James's question because I have an answer to the first one. In fact, James, let me unmute you. We have a whole video on the first one. So his question is there a best practice to find items and projects that are used in multiple projects across decisions? We are planning to upgrade to version 9 this summer, and if I understand correctly, the version 9 project format requires each component to be defined in that project, right? And similarly, I'm interested in finding orphaned items and projects that are no longer used and deleting those to keep things tidy. Is there a faster way to check for those? Two-part question. The first part is project dependencies. I've got a whole video on this if someone's able to drop that into the chat. Otherwise, I can look for it myself. But where is it? Hold on. I'm going to pull it up on this side real quick and see if I can find it because I know we have a video on this that goes into great detail about how project dependencies used to work, how they work in V9, how they get converted, how they handle that. Like, where is it? Okay, I've got two here. So the first one's going in the chat right now, okay? And then let me get you a second one, and then we'll talk about this a little bit. Let me get you. Oh, I didn't mean to send that there. Hold on. There we go. And then here we go. This second one is a little bit closer to what you're looking for. This one is talking about environment variables, but it's the same sort of idea where you're trying to get environment variables to be accessed across them. So let me explain why things work like they do in V9, and then we'll go over how to utilize it properly. So in version 9, as you have already noticed, everything that you create inside of decisions is going to be housed in a project. And in order for one project to see what is happening in another project, you must manually declare a dependency. So if I go into manage, and then I go into configuration, and then go into dependencies, clicking manage here lets me choose what other dependency. So let's say I want the lunch and learn from yesterday as a dependency. As soon as I declare that, that means that I can now utilize and see different elements from that project inside of this project. So what that does is now if I were to, I didn't have any data types created in this one, right? However, if I go to a fetch entity, which would be in here, that's what we were doing. And now I go under user defined type. Oh, I may not actually have any in the other project. My bad. But the point being is that I have access to utilize those elements inside of the other project. So actually subflow should be a great way to showcase that. So what do we got here? We got run subflow, pick or create, pick existing, and I'm going to click on the, not the current project, dependencies. Do I really have no flows in there? Wow. Oh, right. Yeah, that was the LNL from yesterday where we had like no questions. So that's why there isn't anything in there. But that's what you have the ability to do once you clear dependencies. Now, if you are trying to move projects from one to another, right? If you're trying to work on deployment, you have to be aware that you'll have to deploy those other parts that they're depending on too into the higher environments because they're not technically part of that project, right? They are their own separate project and their own separate entities. So James, is that answering kind of your first question or not quite?
Yes, and thank you for the material. But I got confused by that last sentence you said.
Okay. So when you're pushing stuff to the repository, right?
Mhm.
You're going to have your own project and then your dependent project. If your project is depending on an older version of the project in like QA, whereas the newest versions in dev, you have to push both to the repo and then check out both. So that is to say, let's say Thursday LNL is dependent on Wednesday LNL, right? So I can look at all the elements from Wednesday LNL. And right now there are no elements, right? Let's say that I pushed Thursday LNL and Wednesday LNL to my repository and then check them out into QA. Thursday LNL still has all of its stuff. Wednesday LNL still has nothing, right? Now, let's say that back in my dev environment, I actually add a flow into Wednesday LNL. All right. Let's actually, this is the one that didn't have anything. Let's say I add a flow in here now. And then after I add that flow, I use that flow in Thursday LNL because it's a dependency. If I check in Thursday LNL to the repo and then check it out into QA, it's not going to have that dependency. It's not going to be able to find that flow because Wednesday LNL never got checked in with that new update. Is that making sense?
Yes, that makes more sense.
All right, cool. Yeah, it's not so much a problem as it is you just have to be aware of what's dependent on what when you check in. Now, the reason that this is all here in the first place is because back in version 8, this, without declaring direct dependencies, this allowed for cyclical dependencies, which means if you did want to break things up, you ran into problems and you couldn't, and it would cause a lot of headaches and struggles. That's the whole reason that this system is like this now, is so that those cyclical dependencies don't exist anymore or shouldn't exist anymore inside of version 9. So here you have to, again, be aware of the dependencies you're checking with it, but it's not like, oh, version A is dependent on older version of version C, but version C is now dependent on version like B, and version B was dependent on version A, and that whole cycle just breaks if one of them goes wrong. So that has been thankfully taken care of. Now, to address the second part of your question, that one's a little bit trickier. You're looking for orphaned items and projects that are no longer used and then deleting those to keep things tidy. Is there a faster way to check for those? If I recall, I'm not certain, but I'm almost certain that there's a query that you can run that shows the dependencies on projects. There's no default like get rid of unused items button in decisions. It doesn't know what you're using. It doesn't know what you're not using. But what you can do is I'm almost certain there's a query you can run that shows you the dependencies. I have a feeling it's not element registration, but let me just take a look. Component registration ID generated. Dependency. That's not it. This is where everything actually makes sense and is alphabetical. Thankfully, let's go a little further. Modified, long date time. Module name. Let me try module resource. Actually, there might be a dependencies table. Hold on. Module dependency. Let me look at this. This might be it. Oh, let me clear this first. No, wait, that's not it. Never mind. Declared module resource dependency. Project dependency. That's not it either. Let me look at module. Hold on. Might be module resource. It might be in the module resource table. ID, type, module name. I guess to answer that question partially, there's no one button for it. Because decisions does even it could check things by dependency in theory if there was kind of just like a clear button for it. But you may have something that's just a standalone element that isn't dependent on anything else, and it would just get rid of that if it were to do it by that logic, right? So it's kind of tough for decisions to categorize like what's used and what's not used, if that makes sense. Now, there are orphaned items in projects like you mentioned. And what you can do is in module dependency, you have this field module name that shows exactly what project things are a part of. So this is decisions process mining, decisions core. These include your own projects as well, not just the decisions one. Decision support chat, process mining. I'm not seeing a lot of other ones at the moment, but these do include user-defined ones as well. So that is an option that you have to be able to sort by project and run it against this module resource table and figure out exactly what this is. You can also look at these things inside of the element registration table, though with both of these, grain of salt, be careful when editing them because you are directly deleting projects from here if you're getting rid of them. You're not marking them as soft deleted. Any sort of delete query just gets rid of them. Another note on this is any changes that you make with the query editor are going to require a service restart in order for decisions to recognize that the changes happened. I can look in, James, that's not the first time this question has come up, either in Lunch and Learn or in the support team as well. So I will look into that and see if I can find any such cases and how those were resolved. But I don't have a direct just do this, this, and this step by step for that second question that you have at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and let me check my participants tab. Okay, Vitaly is back. Vitaly, I saw that you left during that time. The data repeater, I just loaded it up with like 14,000 records and it never even loaded. So that's what came of that. We never actually saw that in action yet. But I do not mind testing that. I don't think that's a thing with the data repeater. Also got Grant saying that he asked the same question for support and they told him no. So I can check that, see if there's been any updates. Like I mentioned, there is that new layout coming out at some version. I haven't been told which version yet, but that seems to be something that might be a solution. So yeah, cool. Well, I haven't seen any more people join. In fact, I've only seen people leave. And given that we don't really have any more questions lined up, and with only 10 minutes left, this seems like a decent time to wrap things up. So we'll be calling it a day and be calling it a week for this Lunch and Learn. Thank you all very much for attending. We look forward to seeing you guys on Monday.